trip to the Bill Shirk Sound Archive and Music Library at BG. It's like, if you love music, it is like the coolest place in the world. So you get a kind of a behind, we're gonna do another tour there, a kind of behind the scenes tour, lots of cool photographs, vinyl records, tapes, like music memorabilia, like they have a Devo hat. I can't believe it. So lots of cool stuff. Look for that in April on a Saturday. So lots of fun. And I'm going to turn it over to Craig Spicer from the Wood County Parks Department.
Hello everybody, welcome again. This is our last talk in our base camp series. I see we have some recurring people, but if you're new, this has been a 6-part speaker series, all highlighting people that live in Ohio, more like Northwest, Southeast Michigan, Northwest Ohio, but we do have our special guest today is more from Central Ohio. But regardless, the point of the base camp stories is to bring people from our own base camp, our own home base, so they can share with you all the amazing adventures that they take from this launching pad that is our home and is their home. If you would like to get started in any of the adventures that we've been talking about or any of our speakers have been talking about, feel free to always reach out to me at Wood County Parks. We have all sorts of different programs that can get your feet wet in all kinds of different recreational pursuits, except maybe not this one. This one I know absolutely nothing about, and I'm very excited to learn about it. Our speaker today, Michelle or Micki. Cotterman, we'll go by Micki. Is from Newark, Ohio. She's been a licensed amateur radio operator for 4 years, but if she's not out transmitting all sorts of signals to all sorts of different people and places and things, she is a teacher at Delaware City Schools, teaching math and computer science. So you can see maybe the tie there, math, computer science, sweet radio things. Anyway, I don't want to steal any of her thunder, so I'm going to turn it over to Micki Cotterman. Please give her a warm welcome.
Well, I was told 50 people, so evidently the radio thing didn't like catch that many people's attention. So the reason I'm here all the way from Newark is because my daughter works at the park system. She runs the Carter Historic Farm, Anna, some of you probably know her. And she said, there's this guy named Craig, and he likes people to come and talk about what they do outside. Well, I camp a lot by myself, and she's like, surely you have stories that you can tell that'll take 40 minutes, Mom, about camping outside. But I had just started getting into a particular aspect of amateur radio that I have a lot of fun doing, and I'm like, well, why don't I talk about that? But before I talk about that, we gotta talk about what amateur radio is in general, and how many people are there to answer that question. Because Craig do not go idea. Okay, so ham radio, does that make a difference? Yes. There we go. So amateur radio is ham radio. Ham does not stand for anything. There are 2 stories about where that term came from, and I think because there are 2 stories, therefore neither one is necessarily true. I don't remember either of them. So I'm kind of a fraud, so just so you know. There's a part that I really like, and that's what I'm going to spend most of my time talking about. But if I don't tell you the other part, then I'm kind of doing a disservice, because you might like it. It's something that anybody can do. So amateur radio, I'm going to kind of read these because it's little and you're way out there. Amateur radio is we said this part. It's a service and hobby that enables many activities, public service, scientific experimentation, and fun. Well, that's a redundant statement. Scientific experimentation, I can't say it, but it's fun. 760,000 practitioners in the US, 2 million worldwide. Worldwide, 12% are ladies. In the United States, 15% are ladies. There's There's 3 levels of license in the United States. Technician is the first one. Each one has a test that you have to take. The first one has 35 questions on the test, and it kind of works its way up. I think the extra had 50. But the interesting statistics about the ladies is, of the 3 levels, a much larger proportion of women don't go past the first level. They'll get into it. What I've seen in the club that I'm involved in is, hey, honey, let's do this. And they go do the first step with their husbands, and then they go tap out. I'm not doing this. But I think it's fun. You just have to find your thing. Radio operators are everywhere. This man's sitting on top of a mountain. He carried his stuff in his back pocket, and he went up there. Well, probably his backpack, but you know. He is participating in a radio sport called Summits on the Air. I participate in a thing called Parks on the Air, which is similar, except for I just drive up. I don't get out. I don't have to climb up the whole mountain. We'll come back to that later. Okay. Just like he said, no surprise to find a math teacher being a radio person. A lot of astronauts have their ham license. So on their spare time, they'll get on the radio from in the space shuttle or in the International Space Station. Another thing that can happen is schools can actually, like not during their spare time, but during their actual work day, this is one of their jobs as the astronaut, schedule a time that they're going to talk to astronauts on the thing. What? My brain just goes black. On the radio was where I was trying to go. So, but that's a whole, you have to do all kinds of training, and it costs like $30,000 because they want you to have certain equipment and stuff. Another thing that happens with the space station or satellites, in fact, some satellites that are this big that amateur people somehow put out there on their own, people will bounce a signal. They'll send a signal up into space, hit that little satellite, and it'll bounce back down, and then they'll talk to somebody far away, right? If I'm trying to talk to you, that's cool. I'm just talking straight to you. But if I want to talk to somebody far, far away, I'm going to send my signal up, and it's going to bounce off something, and it's going to come back down, okay? So there's lots of different radio bands. You know how you've got like AM radio and FM radio, and then TV, whatever, things that are coming through the electromagnetic waves. Within the amateur spectrum, some of them, there's quite a variety. I'm the best speaker on the planet. So some of them are 2 meters long. So when you got a 2 meter wave, that one will go right through the atmosphere, and it bounces off one of those things, and it'll come back down. The atmosphere doesn't stop it. Well, unless you're bouncing off a satellite, that's the one that gets used for local communications. So if you were trying to talk to your buddy when you're driving home from work or something, that's the one that gets used. You might have heard, those of you who went like this when I said ham radio, you might have heard about a thing called a repeater. Those 2 meter radios can only go maybe 5 or 10 miles, but there's these things called repeaters, and you hit one of those, it's another radio, but it's kind of automated. It picks up your signal, and then it'll send it out almost instantaneously, like 20 miles. So that's how that gets talked on. But then there's really long waves, like 20 meters, or 40 meters, or 80 meters. You get the pattern? What do you think's next? 160 meters. But there's 12 and 11. There's 11 meters is CB radio. So that's not part of our gig, but those waves, they can't go out. They hit the ionosphere, and they bounce back down. So those are the ones that you talk really far on. Even though I've had my license for 4 years, I haven't done a lot with it until like the last year and a half or so. So I'm not super technical. One of the things I haven't figured out is how to talk to Jim and Anna from my house. Like, I know how to talk close, that's the 2 meter, and I know how to talk far away with that 20 meter, but I don't know how to talk 100 miles away. So that's on my list of things to learn. You're not gonna learn everything about ham from me, buddy, that's for sure. All right, but some things. So anyway, astronauts like to do it. Public service. Amateur radio service is a valued element of neighborhoods and municipalities across the U.S. In times of disaster, when regular communication channels fail, amateur radio service works with public service agencies. So I kind of feel like backtracks from here a little bit. Part of that public service is just helping with community events. Yesterday, I was supposed to go and help be communication at a half marathon. Not yesterday, Sunday. And guess what? We didn't do it because they didn't want all those runners slipping and sliding in the ice. So, but fairs, parades, road races, any place that somebody needs a little extra communication help, they'll have that. I think that part used to be a lot bigger than it is now because now we have cell phones, right? So it's not as necessary. You do have to, like I said, have a license because, especially with the HF, which stands for high frequency, radio waves can be a little bit dangerous. You know how you're not supposed to stand in front of your microwave? Stuff like that. But also just the rules so that everybody plays nice together. Introducing children to amateur radio leads them to be interested in STEM kind of things, so they might go on to be engineers or astronauts. There's a lot of pilots. And we're not getting back to okay, so I thought, I must have taken something out. Ham radio, we talk about this. We communicate. People do contests. So they go out there and they just try to talk to as many people as they can. Okay, I'm gonna go back and talk because I thought I'm missing a slide that I thought I had, and I don't know if it's comes in later or something. Hello. When it comes to emergency services, like where the fires are in California, or even more to the point was the hurricanes in North Carolina, everything's wiped out. There's no cell towers, there's no electricity, there's nothing, right? Amateur radio operators can just put, like, this is what I do for fun, right? But the fun is to get ready for this. Like, hopefully I will never have to actually do something in an emergency situation. Hopefully nothing happens that wipes out every way that we know that we have to communicate. But if it does, whatever might happen isn't going to happen to my little battery pack and my radio that I pull out of the trunk and slap the antenna on top of my car. I'm going to still have that. So amateur radio operators like Puerto Rico, when they had the big weather event and they ended up with no anything. Those were the first communications out of there were from amateur radio operators. Okay. So sometimes it's the large scale, it's the only communication there is for a little bit. But other times it's stuff like things are overwhelmed, like the emergency services are using their stuff to save lives or whatever, but you're still trying to contact your grandma down in North Carolina. Is grandma okay? And so they will patch together ways to do that. So in emergencies, it gets used a lot. It's very important. Look at that guy setting up his stuff in front of Mount Rushmore. All right, so there's a lot of digital stuff. This is more interesting. I mean, if you've already been doing it, or I don't know, maybe if you like, this would be the thing that you're interested in. There's digital ways to use the radio now, so it's kind of uses the computer and uses the radio. A friend of mine, I'll talk about in a little bit, but there's this thing, it's called FT8, and that's another, you know how groups can be. Like they got to have their acronyms and stuff, so there's insiders and outsiders, that's all I'm saying. I don't know what FT8 stands for, but what they're doing is they're on their computer, and they're making contacts on their computer. So you'll send out a little thing, hey, somebody talk to me, and somebody on their computer will answer you, but it's not, to me it feels like you're on the internet. I have to remind myself I'm not on the internet doing that, because we talk to anybody we want to on the internet all the time, right? But really it's hooked up to the antenna and stuff, and they're not using the internet. And even if you take back to the emergency situations, it works on a lot lower power. So it's even better for emergencies than some of the other stuff. So there's some drones that you have to have a license, an amateur radio license to be allowed to fly these certain drones. I don't know, man, what that's about, but it's true. There's other aspects of the hobby that I don't know a lot about, and that would be one of them. But there are drones that you need a license for. If you want to become a ham radio operator, this is your first purchase, followed by many other purchases, but that's a book that's got all the lessons in it. It is not the cheapest hobby on the planet. And I am frugal. So I have like the cheapest radio, and you can make antennas out of speaker wire. So I got 100 feet of speaker wire from Walmart for $12. And I made an antenna out of it and put it in my backyard, and I immediately talked to Puerto Rico off of some speaker wire, which is really like 200 feet because it splits in half, you know what I'm saying, for 12 bucks. But that's not always how it's done. That's what I like. I like to do frugal things. I went the wrong way. Is anybody interested? Because this is really teeny down here. Hamstudy.org, like if you don't want to buy the book, hamstudy.org is a place online to learn about. If you want to know that stuff, come back and I'll get more. This is your local club, Wood County Amateur Radio Club, WCARC, bgsu.edu if you want to write that down. I don't know. I tried to contact them and didn't get an answer back, but I mean on the computer, not on the thing, because I already said, I haven't figured out how to talk this far. All right. Okay, and that's ARRL stands for Amateur Radio Relay League, and it's the national organization in charge that kind of sets the rules and stuff. Everybody follows rules. They're not laws, they're rules. But if you don't follow them, things don't work. You know what I mean? It's almost like etiquette, only bigger, right? So they're a wonderful organization. One of the things that they do that I have participated in is they do a teacher institute. Are there any teachers in the room? I don't even know. This might even count. Park people might even count. Librarians, I'm for sure would count. They put on a program in the summer that ended up calling it Radio Camp. You go in and they teach you a lot of things and give you a lot of stuff and to take back and teach the kids. Okay, because they feel it's important and we'd like to see it go on, and also it leads to technological fields of study and all that kind of stuff. But they pay for the whole thing. It's a week-long camp, and they pay for the hotel, they pay for the airplane, they pay for the food, they pay for everything, give you a whole bunch of stuff to play with, but there's no teachers. All right, Aries is the emergency arm of it. Amateur Radio Emergency Services. Brett Steeman is in charge of it for Ohio. Everybody is volunteer in it. But when something happens, he's in touch with the fire departments and all that. And these are some guys that are from up here. Anybody know them? Scott Yonley, Roy Hook, Tom Sly. They're Great Lakes area people. Okay, we've kind of talked about this stuff. I forgot there was I forgot to put a whole thing in here. I know I suck at this. What? So there's some public service events. Just kind of provide local disasters. They also do search and rescue, I hadn't mentioned. There's a group, they don't always do communications. You're just extra bodies, okay? And everybody that is involved in these things has had some training, like not radio training, but some training. Like I've already taken 4 classes from FEMA, but then there's other local agencies that have classes and stuff. They looked for a missing college student who they found not well. And the firearm one, I never heard about that one, but sometimes they just go out and like they'll have a thing set up with coffee and water, whatever the temperature is, what they need for the firemen as they're doing a search and rescue kind of a thing. They're helping with floods. Okay. Now we talk about the fun part. I'm talking fast. What time is it? 7:20. I shall slow my roll. All right. So all this stuff, just, if something really bad happens, and suddenly we need communication, if at that point the people who are going to do the communicating decide to learn how to do it, that's not going to go well, right? So we have a lot of stuff that we do that is just fun, but at the same time, if something happened, I would know what to do. And the thing that I like to do the most, of course, that's the most fun, but there's some other things that are also kind of fun. Nets. Every Tuesday night, my radio club has a thing called a net, and that is one person gets on, and they're called net control, and they say, who's out there listening that wants to participate in the net? And people take turns saying their call sign, I and WA8IDK, which I picked out. They call it a vanity call sign when you pick it out, but if you think really hard and picture it written down, WA8IDK spells wait, I don't know. That's why I picked it. So anyway, so you go through, and each person that's listening, and of course sometimes people are talking over each other and they got to slow down and try it again. They just say their call sign. And then usually it's Earl. I'm just going to say Earl because that's who it is in our case. Earl will go through and call each person, and each person has a chance to say something they want to say. This particular net is called an informal net, and it is not about radio. I mean, in the summer, what you're going to find out is who mowed their grass that day, right? But if something's going on, like if there's some event that people are going to help out at or something, then they'll talk about that then too. So that's a net. But the purpose of the net, so that's kind of a open net. The purpose of the net is you practice that back and forth in the order and saying back to net, just the things, the same way you would do it in an emergency situation. We practice doing that, only then the conversation's more fun on our weekly net. Also, it gives you a chance to see if your radio works. Like you get a new radio and you have to make it work. That's your chance to find out for sure if things are working right. So it checks you out, it checks your equipment out. When there is a storm, the amateur radio clubs in the areas that will do a weather net, okay? And if you personally, just any old Joe, try to call up and report a tornado, they don't right off the bat believe you. Did you know that? So there's storm watch training, and you don't have to be an amateur radio operator to take the storm watch training. If you take that, then they'll be willing to believe you, right? But the amateur radio people, they all take that, well, not all, anybody that wants to be involved in this part of it, take that training, and we'll set up one of these nets. And instead, if they don't go around and have everybody take a turn, you just call in if you have, and he reads off the whole list of things like hail more than an inch, unusual flooding. There's a list, and there's a script that's written down, and the person that's running the net just reads off of that script, and then people call in if they have the different things that actually happen. But the net that we do every Tuesday and tell people whether we mowed our grass or not, that keeps us ready for the net when the weather's bad, because we're used to the protocol. Okay, the next thing is field day. This is the event worldwide for amateur radio. It's like the second weekend in June, and you go out in groups or singly, it does not matter, but the idea is you don't stay home. And I should have made those pictures bigger. And you go out to a park or wherever you want to go. Some people do it like right outside the fire station because that makes sense. And you set up a bunch of radios and a bunch of antennas and see how many people you can contact. And it's a contest, and they turn in points, and they talk really, really, really fast. Like, I am talking slow to you people. They are like, They'll say their call sign, and the other person says their call sign, it's over. That's it. So you're imagining conversations, but that is not what's taking place. So, but that you get extra points if you use solar power. You get extra points if you have kids. It is also a community outreach kind of thing. We always have the mayor come to ours. If you hear about it, you should go. They let you come. Boy Scout troops will go check it out. Because with my amateur radio license, I'm allowed to hand you the microphone, and you just use my license, my call sign. You can be wait, I don't know. And you're allowed to talk. We don't have to say that you're not that whatever. You're allowed to operate under my license. If I'm sitting there where I can grab the radio from you if you say something stupid. That's the rule. Okay, so field day, it's just huge. Everybody's doing it at the same time, all across the world. So we have the solar power. We worked on generators. This is a little wire antenna somebody had. Oh, they said there's a thing. I don't get it to work. I don't know if you can tell this from back there or not. So, like I said with the speaker wire, some of the antennas are just a piece of wire. Well, they work better if you get them up really, really high. So can you tell what he's got? He's got a bow and arrow, but he's got a tennis ball on the end of the bow. So he's going to shoot that, boom, and the tennis ball and all goes way up there. He's very proud of that, and it's very fun. It's a good time. But mostly people will use an arborist bag. Do you know what that is? Like a little bag of sand, and you have to get good at woo, woo, woo. And there you go. That's what people use for that. So I thought, okay, parks on the air. This is what I like to do. This is fun. It's kind of like the field day situation, except everybody's not doing it at the same time. You can do whenever you want to. You go to a national park or a state park, okay? And you set up with your equipment and talk to people. It's split into two groups of people. Activators are the people who are at the park. And I have a really fancy, it's fancy pants, I'm telling you, but I have to get it to go up here now. Not you. Then you get old and you can't see. Okay. Isn't that a beautiful graphic? AI did that. I said, I want to make a thing about this, and it said, here you go. So activators go out to the park and set up their stuff. And you don't get to count as having activated a park until you've talked to 10 people. And I went with my friend Bo, and he gets carried away. There's an itty bitty tent. I mean, that thing was huge. It's like, are you over there? And we set up tables with all the equipment between the two of us. Here's what he brought. A Yaesu FT991, which is that's the radio. And then he brought meters and a very fancy antenna called a buddy pole. Doesn't that sound fancy? But it is. A tablet. He put up another monitor so I could see what was going on. We used my Jackery for the power. You can't plug, the radios don't plug into the wall. They have to plug into 12 volt. So you always, even if when you're all set up in your house, you have a little thing that looks like a cigarette lighter from a car. That's plugged into the wall, but that's what the radio's got to go into. Okay, we did the FT8 thing. My friend Bo doesn't like to talk on the radio, but he's one of the most busy hand people I know because he likes to do this FT8 thing. So that's what that looks like. So the green lines are him saying, somebody talk to me, and the yellow lines are somebody answering. And the other colors, I don't know. We're not talking to them. I just pulled this off the internet. This is not our thing that day, but when you use the FT8 thing and have this map thing activated, it puts a little mark everywhere you talked. Again, this is not us. This is not us. The hunters are the people at home, and they're looking up to see where people are. They listen on the radio and dial the little dial through until they hear somebody saying they're at a park. And they try to talk back to him. That's my brother. He's in Kingman, Arizona. I'm like, why did you put your face over on the side? He's like, because so you could see my stuff. You want to see my stuff. All right. I actually will go out and, okay, now's the time for me to tell you how exciting this conversation is. When you're at the park being an activator, you say, but you don't say it like this, there's other ways, right? I'm at a park, would somebody talk to me? And somebody says to you, hey, I hear you out at that park. And you say, oh, thanks, I hear you this loud. And they say, well, that's cool. I hear you this loud. And then you say, thanks, have a great day. Next. That's the whole conversation. So, all right, it's fun. I think it's really fun. But the reason I interjected that right when I did was, I don't know. So my brother, that was the first time I talked to somebody on that FT8, was I talked to my brother. So that was fun.
Do you know where they are when you talk to them?
Okay, when I talk to somebody, we'll see it in a minute, but I write it down on a piece of paper who I talk to, all right? And then when I go home, I type it into the computer, like I make a spreadsheet, but then I upload that spreadsheet into something, and the programs where you do your logging online, they know. So when you type it in, it'll say, it's Bob Smith from Paducah, Kentucky. That's who you just talked to. But sometimes people will say their name, but not very often. There are actual conversations taking place on amateur radio waves as well. You just get on to a random spot and you just say, the word to say, won't somebody talk to me, are the letters CQ. Kind of sounds like you're seeking CQ. You'll say CQ 20 meters, then W8IDK. And if somebody's listening, they'll say W8IDK, XZY, whatever. And then we'll have a conversation. So conversations do take place, but I'm really shy, you guys. I don't know what to say. So I like doing this thing because I don't have to think about what to say. I will eventually. So it's a good starter thing because you don't have to, it's not intimidating. I can talk all day long, you can probably tell. But when you have a microphone in front of your face, that's a different thing. For some reason, it's just kind of like, no, what am I supposed to say? So the second time that I went with my friend, we didn't have time to camp, so we just went. For the day, this is Dylan. You see the pretty blue heron? And there's the radio. There's some solar power. Can you make out the antenna at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I was going to point at it. And there I am getting the sunburn. So then we put up the tent because we weren't smart enough to do that first. And there's what happened. So we both thought the other was bringing a computer. That did not happen. Neither of us brought a computer. So first of all, Bo had to speak with his own voice. And secondly, we wrote stuff down. And then on the website, I'm going to show you mine in a minute. We made this after we did those two, and we did this part of the presentation at our club. I'll put up a clearer because we're going to go right to the website. But this is just, how many parks have you activated? Bo had activated at that point 4 parks. Hunted, so he had, that was it. I was trying to tell you the difference between. If you're the one that's saying CQ parks on the air, you're the activator. But if you're the person saying, I hear you, you're the hunter. So when I'm at the park, I just pretend like I'm the hunter. I don't do the CQ part that much. I like to answer. I go up and down the band and find the person and talk to him that way. So, and Bo too, parks hunted, he had hunted 42 parks. Late shift activator, like if you're on there after 8 o'clock at night or something. Down here, these are all the states that you've hunted. And over there's the states that you have activated from. Mine looks a lot like that because I've only been to one. So even within this subset of the ham radio stuff, there's lots of different ways to enjoy it. My friend likes to get as many contacts as he can at one time. And he wants to go back to the same place, because if you get 1,000 contacts at one place, that's an award. And these awards are nothing. It's just something they send you over the internet, but it's still fun to get the little awards. So there's his late shift award and his hunter award. When we made this thing, I hadn't been doing it very long, so I didn't have any awards. Joined, it's called POTA, which stands for Parks on the Air, but doesn't translate well from Spanish. So when our friends from a Spanish-speaking country put something on their Facebook and Facebook translates it, it's a bad word. So that's kind of fun, but get started today. Tell me if you want to do it, and I'll tell you how to do it. Okay. So that's the fancy slideshow, and all our fancy stuff that we did it with. But, well, one would think I could find my PowerPoint. Hey. I can't find my PowerPoint, you guys. I told you I could, and I can't. Nope, there it is. Okay, so when I go by myself, this is what it looks like. I got my notebook. I have, sometimes I put up a little awning. I have my little bitty table. There's my radio, there's my electricity, and there's my antenna on top of my car with a magnet. That's it. It doesn't take that long. It takes, when I go with Bo, I mean, it's an hour set up at least. But when I go out there by myself, I am very scaled back. Also, go ahead, honey.
How long do you stay out there?
Well, I stay out there. I don't have that long of an attention span, so I stay out there and get my 10. Like, he wants to sit there and talk to 250 people, right? 10. And I hit the road. And that usually takes me like an hour. So, and then I just enjoy the park. Before I started doing ham radio, I just went to the park, right? I still just go out and, what do they call it, forest bathe? I still want to do what I've always done. I want to sit at the park quietly and listen to whatever there is to listen to. Birds are rustling in the trees or whatever. Bigfoot, who knows? I still want to do that part of it. So I do my 10 people here, and then I quit. And some people say, well, that's not worth setting up the equipment. But honey, I'm not setting up very much equipment. It takes me less than 5 minutes to set up my equipment.
Do you turn the dial to keep finding them, or do you hit a secret?
I'm gonna show you something in a minute, but yeah, you can just sit. If you don't have any internet, I guess the one where it's getting dark. That's at Blue Rock State Park. I don't know, we have many state park enthusiasts. Jefferson Lake, that may be closer to here. Have you heard of that one? Is that middle one? But at Blue Rock, there wasn't any cell phone signal, so I'm just twisting through the dial until.
I think there's a.
I'm going to show you. There's one right here. There's one in town.
Okay. Is it?
Yep. It's the Battlefield.
The park that they use.
See, because have you seen them out there?
No, my brother is a ham operator, and he looked to see where in Maumee, and it's just on River Road. Never have ever paid attention. There's a little sign, and I have no idea.
So
it's a state park. So
there's state parks, national parks. This is where it gets a little bit scary as a lady by myself, but I'm tough. I can handle it. There's all the sportsman areas. I mean, they don't have parking. You just pull off in the mud, right, and do your stuff. All the nature preserves. Ohio History Connection is not part of it, but anything that ODNR owns. So I didn't even know how much wild land that the public can use is available in Ohio until I started doing this. There are 271 spots in Ohio that qualify for this.
But why those spots? Why national, why state?
I mean, if you started going to municipalities, there would be somebody is sitting there administering this.
Okay.
So just to keep it a number that they can handle, I don't know. They just, whoever made it up, it's one of those things, like somebody made up a thing and these are our rules. But I think largely parks come and go if you do municipalities. I don't know, I feel like the bridge people, Army Corps of Engineers, I feel like their spots should be part of it. They kind of fit in that, but they're not, so I don't know. I do not know. I have activated, this says 20, it's one of my awards, 20. I've now activated 29. It's fun, like I'll have a long day at school and I need some park time, I need to sit in some trees. And this only takes me 5 minutes to set up. So I will sit in trees and play on my radio. And then I'll turn it off and be quiet. This is that I talked to 100 unique references. I think I'm up to more than 100. I don't know, it's more than 100. If you operated the first week of the year, you got a little award. It's just silly, but it's fun. This one, they name them after animals, but it's called a rove, Poto Rover. I went to 5 different parks on the same day. And then there's different awards if you go to 10. I don't know how, there's ones if you go to 20, 25. I don't know how you do that. I do not know how you would go to 25 parks on one day. Not me, for sure. But that was Christmas because we had planned our family Christmas for a different day than Christmas, so I didn't want to sit home all by myself on Christmas, so I went and played parks. And those were all parks down by Lancaster. So there's my little thing. Look at all those states. So I've talked to 178 different parks. I've talked to a lot of people in Canada, which it's fun, you know, I'm talking further when I talk to somebody in Texas than when I talk to somebody in Ontario or whatever. But Nova Scotia, again, it's that bounce, you know what I'm saying? I hit Nova Scotia a lot. I hit Texas a lot. Georgia seems to be easy to hit.
Do some people use this just to talk to relatives back and forth?
Yeah, they use amateur radio. Yeah, they wouldn't use this, right? But yes, absolutely. Yeah. So the whole antenna situation, antennas need what's called a ground plane. The antenna I use on my car has a magnet to stick it on the roof, and the car is its ground plane. It's like you need the part that sends out signal, but somehow this other piece of metal helps you to gather signal. And somehow where my house is, I haven't been able to, I can't get that antenna to work. I don't want to sit in the street in my car. That would be, right? And the antenna won't fit in the garage, so I haven't played with it that way. And I keep trying, like those wires, like I talked to Puerto Rico, but then nobody else heard me that whole night. You know, that's not fun. So, but people that invest more money into it, for sure, can talk to you. My radio puts out 20 watts. The average entry-level radio is 100 watts. And then other people put crazy stuff out. Huh? Oh, that's 100. His is 100. And so my radio was the cheapest of the long-distance kind of radios, was $400. Most of them are around $1,000. My antenna costs $15, right? Whatever. That buddy pole thing costs $600. I mean, if you got money, it's easier, but I don't think it's as fun. Like doing the computer thing, we talked to Nigeria on that on the FT8, where it was just the, oh wow, yay, we talked to Nigeria. That's about how excited I was. But then I talked to France, like with my face, you know what I'm saying? I talked to somebody in France and heard their voice. We talked with our own voices. And I'm like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? Woo. Barbados. I talked to Barbados. I was sitting down at the Miners Memorial in Southern Ohio, which is the absolute middle of nowhere. So, have you heard of the Wilds?
Oh, yeah.
It's near that. Okay, so south of that, nowhere, right? Sitting in my car, I talked to Barbados. And my question is, was the guy in Barbados as excited about that as I was? I don't know. I think so. I mean, he's talking far too, and he was at a park. He also was at a park. When you're doing it and you're at a park, so the person says, CQ their call sign, and then I say, a bunch of people answer them at the same time, and they have to pick who to talk to. And with my little 20 watts, I'm hard to hear. But on the end of my call sign, I'll say park to park. And there's other, I didn't put the park to park award on my little list, but there's a little awards for park to park stuff too. So they'll want to talk to me because they want that award. Also, going back to the statistics that I said at the beginning, they kind of like to talk to ladies because there aren't that many ladies. There's no award for that. But they're like, oh, it's a lady talking. Let me talk to her. So they'll do that too. But you can talk to your friends. Okay, I was going to go to the website and show you. So I go to this website, if I have internet, and let me sign in. Talk amongst yourselves. This might take a minute. As you know, on my own computer, I'm all signed in already. So I think I will remember the password. Did you bring my password, Jim?
I did not.
You were in charge of passwords today. I sure hope it works, because it's fun. User does not exist. Well, that's a shame, because I do. We might not. Let me just go.
You didn't use an @ sign before Gmail.
I didn't?
No.
Well, that's not very bright, is it? Look who's teaching the youth of today. There's absolutely no excuse for it. I like to teach my kids. Mistakes are okay as long as you keep trying. Okay. Oh. When he said I was math and computer science, I've taught math since 1987. And last spring, my boss says, you're going to be the computer science teacher next year. And I said, I don't know nothing about computer science. And he said, well, I guess you better be learning because you're going to do it. So I went in and I told the kids, I said, we're doing this. And I'm learning it right along with you, so let's have a good time. And it's just fun because we're all trying to figure it out, and if they figure it out before I do, that's a good time. These people right now are sitting at parks. So this guy's at the F.D. Roosevelt State Park in Georgia. See if there's anybody here in Ohio. But you see, it's got the name of the park because people have lists of the park and they're trying to talk to every one of them. I'm trying to go to I want to activate every one of those 271 in Ohio. I would like to do that. People that are hunters, they want to activate. I mean, they want to hunt every single one in a state. So
every one of them is one person?
Everyone, well, some of them are with their buddy. Sometimes there'll be 2 people.
But I mean, no more than, we're not talking a whole group.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Right. Well, some of them are dudes. This is so sexist. Some of them are dudes that went camping with their family but needed to get away.
Okay.
So they're there. But yeah, these people are all on that 20-meter long wave, right? And they're all talking, I think. And you might notice where it says, where you'll see some say UTC. We used to call it Greenwich time, right? It's so everybody's saying the same time. Tomorrow starts at 7 o'clock. We started our program tomorrow. That's the only way I can think I could ever get 10 of those Rome ones. If I started at 7 o'clock and did 2 or 3 before I went to bed and then got up the next day. But okay, so all these people are talking. But I think a fun thing is to see I was hoping since I was signed in, it would pick up where we're at, but I'm going to have to do this. We're not over there, that's for sure. What? I drove further than I thought.
Getting there. There you go.
There's some Ohio happening. There's Toledo. We got to get close enough to see the very one from you guys. Little yellow dots are about to show up. Maybe it's waiting for me to tell it. I don't mind about the cookies. Sorry, you got cookies. Well, There they came.
There you go.
Okay. So
There, that's better.
here you are. Did you see it right in the middle of you? Perrysburg, and it is Fort Miami Fallen Timbers Battlefield National Historic Site. Because it's a national site and not Ohio Historical Society, who has the same kind of sites. They don't count, because I don't know, they don't really like us. But, I mean, more people come to your thing, whatever. But you can sit in that parking lot of that thing and do it. If you go to Washington, D.C., the whole thing's a... So, Van Tassel State Wildlife Area.
Yeah.
What do you think this one is? Mary Jane Thurston? Yeah. What's the next one then? North Turkeyfoot State Wildlife Area. I'm telling you, there's stuff out there you don't know anything about. And people are out there. So sometimes when I'm out there and it's like dusk and the camo people come and stuff, I start going, it's time to go. I don't catch a stray bull or something. But up along Lake Erie, look at all those.
Yeah.
Like that Maggie Marsh, yeah, on the island. Look, I've never been out to that. I'm going to have to get a boat to go to some of those. These are all those beautiful Ottawa National, Metzger. See, this is a place where I can go and do one of those rove things, right?
Oh, yeah.
So come up here and camp at East Harbor and then just get up early in the morning and go all the way up through here. So there's the state park. So the one, let me go on this Perrysburg one.
So do you plot your course then?
Yeah.
You want to do this?
Mm-hmm. Mostly. Sometimes I get in my car and go, I'm going to go play at the park. Imagine. And then I go to a park. So the Fort Miami Fallen Timber,
It's across the river.
117 people have activated that park. Okay, 125 attempts have been made. That means those 8 people or whatever, they didn't get 10 people to talk to them. But you still, the Hunter Awards, the activator has to put in who they talk to. So even if I talk to 3 people, so I didn't activate it because I didn't get enough people to talk to me, I still need to put those 3 people in because they're trying to get their awards, and their awards count on my logbook. So that's how you get the ones that have been activated. The place that's been activated the least in Ohio that's eligible is kind of near here. Oh, I went all the way back to that. But it's not. It's closer to you, James. Lawrence State Forest, Lawrence Nature Preserve. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to do it because I can't stand to not know. Here we go again, flying back from Cameroon. It's all volunteers. The people who do this, they're not paid. They all got day jobs. And I think this is an amazing amount of technology for them to have put this together.
Lawrence Woods
Yes. So there's 2 parts of Lawrence Woods.
in Ridgeway, Ohio.
Am I getting close?
I don't know.
No idea.
I don't know where Ridgeway is.
Yeah.
I never heard of it.
It's not too far from, because I think when I drive up to visit my son-in-law, how about that, Anderoff? Have you ever heard of that? Come on, Lawrence Woods. Like, where would that be? It's south. This is Killdeer and, oh no, that is it. Okay, Lawrence Woods State Wildlife Area, but there's also Lawrence Woods Nature Preserve. The Nature Preserve has a little building and it has a parking lot and it looks safe, whatever. There's 40 people have gone there and activated, which is not a lot if you think about people over the years trying to check off every place that they've ever heard of. So 40 activations, but right across the street No, I'm not doing it. Right? And you just have to take my word and believe me. There, only 6 people have done the wildlife area because it's just a little mud pull-off. So who wants to do it? Unless you really want to do it, you can do stuff like if Blue Rock State Parks that I showed you, the one picture, it's actually in the Blue Rock State Forest. A lot of the places aren't, like the state park counts for part of the ground, and then the state forest, they share a border, but it's not considered part of it. But that one, the park is considered part of the forest, and you can tell people that you're doing a twofer. So then they get two things checked off, right? So people like to do that. And as a person out at the park, when I'm trying to get my 10, and somebody's going to give me 2 of them at one time, that's fabulous. Or like a lot of times you'll hear, I assume, a husband and wife, and like the one person will go and then they go, wait for the other operator, and then you'll hear the other kind of person with their call. And so you get 2 people, and that counts as 2 contacts. And so if you get those 2 people sitting at a place that's a 2 people thing, then you got 4 things all at one time. It's fabulous. So that's what I do for fun on the weekend. Any other kind of questions that you think I might know the answer to? Yeah. Oh, go ahead. You can go first. It's just Craig.
How do you learn the lingo?
You learn the lingo by just listening, or somebody telling. When I went with Bo, when I was just learning how to do it, I would just, especially the day that we went and we forgot the computer, although he doesn't like to talk very much, but I would just freeze up and go, oh my God, because somebody asked me a question. They were like, oh, well, what part of Ohio are you? Because they can ask questions, but usually they don't. And I go, what do I say? Because, well, I suppose you tell them Central Ohio. I'm like, okay. I just, it's a microphone. What am I supposed to do? You just listen. Okay, so when I was a child, my parents did this. And my dad was one of those guys that he really didn't do anything for fun. But it was about you work, you make money, right? That was what he was about. So he did this and had fun. It was one of the few times I saw him having fun. And he would take off work for us when we'd go to field day. And it's a camp out thing, and so that growing up we would have field day. And it was kind of our only vacation of the year. And we had fun. And me and 2 of my friends, when we were juniors in high school, decided, just because we were feeling smart, that we would get our license. So at that point, I got my license when I was a junior in high school. Never touched a radio, never did anything. Just had to have it just to say that I had it, right? And then, back then, you had to learn Morse code. You weren't allowed to get your license unless you could speak in Morse code. They have canceled that, so come on. But that's what held you up long ago. So now it's time. But you know, I never did anything with it. That was something my dad did or whatever. Then when I became an empty nester, like a lot of us has been through this, and I don't know if this is more of I'm being sexist again, a woman's issue or whatever, but you look up and you go, these people are my kids' friends' parents. We don't even like the same thing, but they're still my friends or whatever. But we don't enjoy it. I'm like, well, what do I want to do that would just be fun for me? And I thought, well, you know, my dad didn't like anything. Like Micki likes it, right? My dad didn't like anything, and he liked this. Let me try this. And I'm a nerd, right? We've established that. So that plus I like to do the community service part. So I got that lowest level license, but on the lowest level license, you're not allowed talking on those long waves, and also the FEMA classes and all that. You're not allowed to do a lot of community service without a general license too. So I did the general license. Then I thought I will not do. It's called technician, general, and then extra. It's extra. And I'm like, I'm not going to do the extra because people kind of esteem that. The reason I wasn't going to, I just memorized the question banks. I do not know what they're talking about. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say it in public, but it's true. I have no idea. So I didn't want to do that with the extra because people really esteem, it's supposed to mean something. But then when I went to that thing at ARRL where they gave all this stuff to us and paid for everything, and it was the teacher training thing, one of the metrics they were using for their success was how many people that attended either got their first license or went up a license. And I thought, well, I want to give them I want them to have their check mark, you know what I'm saying? So I memorized that too, whatever. I don't know. Some of the questions, one of the questions, how far away can you talk to somebody on a particular band? And it was, if you can both see the moon, so across the equator, but you have to both be able to see the moon. And so you know what I know how I learned that one? Oh, it's the romantic one. The romantic one's the answer. And oh, it's the one that sounds like space aliens are coming. I know nothing. But as I'm using it, and here's like our life lesson from school or anything, as I'm using it, I will remember those questions. And I'll say, oh, so this is what that was talking about, or it just completely makes sense now. So now I think it's time to go back and read that red book from the first test, because now I could learn it. When you're learning something, you need a hook. If you have a little hook in your head to hang it on, it's easier to learn. This is teacher talk now. This isn't even radio talk. If you've got something to associate something with, then it's easier to learn. Well, I had nothing to associate this stuff with. So it was just like, no, I have no idea what's going on here. So besides being a nerd, like other things that I like to do for fun is I like to do community theater. I haven't done it for a little bit, but I like to sing in a choir. I have the artsy thing, right? And that's what I'd spent more of my time before. I'm actually, do you guys have Manicore up here? You think you would? Do you know? Anybody, have you heard of it?
No.
They sing German. It's a German singing society. They were started in the mid-1800s for people to keep their culture. The good parts. But, so we sing in German. So that's hard. I keep picking stuff that's hard. I need an easy hobby. Camping's the easy part. What'd you say? Yeah. Keep you thinking. That's supposed to keep us from getting dementia or whatever. So.
Keep you from getting bored.
Absolutely. Any questions? Does anybody want the information for the club? Oh, Craig, now you can speak.
Yeah, thank you. So you were saying the band lengths.
Uh-huh.
So we're talking about it's like sine wave, right?
Yes, it's like a sine wave.
So like the distance between these troughs.
Right.
So is it where those troughs are then hitting like back to the planet? That's where you can hear?
Well, the trough's not that long. I mean,
But you were saying like
the whole thing,
somebody from.
the whole wiggly string will land, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so like the antenna. So the 40-meter thing. I was going to turn that off so I'm not in the spotlight. I'll just step closer. So the 40-meter wave, that's pretty long, right? That's half a football field. Ish. Huh?
120 feet.
I will take your word for it. She said 120 feet. You could either have a wire that's 120 feet long. So your wire is supposed to match with the wire will pluck out of the sky a signal that's length is similar to its length. But you're not going to have a wire that's long. So it goes half. You can have a half wavelength, a quarter wavelength, an eighth of a wavelength. So some of the antennas are really long, but not all. But they don't use the whole thing. So it's not like you've got one sine wave that's going to, but it's the whole bunch of sine waves is bouncing off the sky and stuff, right? As I'm just going to be a snake up here. So does that make sense?
Yeah, but you were saying how you can like talk to people in Africa, but you can't talk to people like 100 miles away.
Yeah, because I bounce right over their head. I'm sending my signal out into space. This is space. And it's going to come up here and hit. And then it's going to come down here and land, and this person's going to hear me. Unfortunately, Anna lives here, where I have gone up, right? So my thing doesn't bounce onto her house.
What is that an issue of?
That's an issue of, I don't know, or I'd be doing it. There's a thing called NVIS, and that does stand for something. Near vertical, I don't know what the I is, signal. And that you somehow send, it's a particular kind of antenna you use, and it sends it more straight up. So when it sends it more straight up, then what happens to the bounce? it comes closer when it comes down, right? Angle of incidence equals the angle of reflection and all that. But I don't know how to do that yet.
Near vertical incidence.
Incidence. So it's gonna be, see, you need to come and do it. It's fun.
Do the bands stay exactly the same all the time?
They don't. So there's a
Like sometimes you want someone and sometimes you can't.
right. Like, I don't know what the ozone's gonna let people through it or something. Wait a minute, I'm gonna go to a thing. I'm going to unauthorized. Stop, for some reason we don't use that word as much. It's like, okay, so there's this, so there's CB radio, right? It's not really different much, but there's no license to do it, and they use the word skip, so we're not gonna use that word. Okay. Can you see this little, whoops, let me see. I want you to see, the part I'm wanting you to see, I'm kind of missing, we're not going to that page, it's got too much stuff. Gosh darn it, get off. Well, do you see down here where it says poor, good, 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 poor?
Yeah.
That's the different bands and whether right now they're working very well. Okay, and it has to do with storms on the sun. So if the sun sends us out a little, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Like the Northern Lights we got to see this summer. Some bands work better with that, and some bands don't work at all when there's that.
Shortwave radio doesn't pick up any of this, AM radio.
So I looked into that because I have a friend that keeps asking me that same question. So when you talk about shortwave radio, you're talking about listening, and you can. Some of the ham radio stuff is in that same area that those shortwave receivers can pick up. But a lot of the when people used to talk about shortwave radio a lot, people had radio stations, just like an FM station or an AM station where they're putting out stuff, but you could hear it from anywhere in the world because of the long things and the bouncing and all that. So yes, some shortwave radio receivers include these bands. It's like what's your radio? Like if you got a TV, remember back in the day when we had UHF channels was the PBS and the other ones were the other, it's like that. So what if you had a TV that didn't have UHF, right? So the radios will have different bands that they cover.
You just have to hit the right band.
Yeah, and you dial in and you see all that. It's fun. It's good times, ladies. Come on, let's take over that 15%. Make it more.
So how much government regulation is there? Like if you want to talk to somebody, you got to bounce off a satellite. I mean, do you just do that?
You just do that.
Doesn't care?
The government regulation is that you take you learn all this stuff and you take the tests. And then,
Doesn't interfere with like air traffic control person?
well, you're not allowed on those stations.
Oh.
On those, that's a different wavelength, right? It's all about how long that wave is. And it's divvied up. So TV's got some of it, commercial radio's got some of it, we got some of it, air traffic control's got some of it, the fire department's got their bit. But it's all divvied up and you don't go into other people's parts. So that's how that doesn't happen. But different countries will have different laws. Most countries we're allowed to talk to. Guess who we're not allowed to talk to? No, we are. North Korea. North Korea is the one I know of, but I'm pretty sure we're allowed to talk to Russia. Yet still. Who knows when that changes, right? And then there's stuff like third-party traffic, like if you know I'm an amateur radio person and you want to get a message. This is like the game of telephone. You could tell me, and I could try to reach somebody in the country where the person that you want to get information to. Do you see where this would be helpful if there were bad relations between countries? It might be risky. Maybe somebody get in trouble. I don't know. But the communications you could have communications that way.
You can pick someone in particular to try and contact?
If you would have had, there's a lot of, because you're twisting that dial just, like we used to do on the radio, and like the regular radio.
Yeah.
You'd have to have some kind of a plan, really, to talk to There are people that, like, they have their buddy they've made friends with in England over the radio, right? And they just, hey, every Thursday at 8 o'clock, let's talk. And they have their little, they try to go to their spot, but somebody else might already be talking there, and they'll already have an agreement about how much they're going to move or whatever to find each other. But look, Craig said this. Just a few minutes ago, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm never going to fill this up, and we've talked all the way to the end.
Thanks, Micki, so much.
You're welcome. Did you learn stuff?
Huh?
Did you learn stuff?
I learned so much stuff. Oh my gosh. I didn't know how sine waves work on radio for like just.
Now you do.
Anyway,
Like you're breakdancing.
My brother tried.
thank you all so much for coming. I feel way more. Thank you very much. I hope that you do too. Again, this is the last of our base camp stories. However, we're gonna be doing it again next year. So if you know of anyone who lives around here that has taken a cool adventure or is a experienced hiker, climber, backpacker, radio, FEMA relief person, any of that.
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
I would love to know about them, and would love to have them come and talk in our series next year. But until then, head to wcparks.org for other programs. Hopefully that will interest you. And Way Library, of course, has many programs as well. Head to their website. But I hope you have a great rest of your night and a good week ahead.
Thank you.
Drive safe. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for coming. Thanks.
You get an antenna on that Subaru?
Yeah.
Psh. That's what I got too. Somebody hit me in my Subaru and